Kim Tae-ho stepped off the transport ship and felt his stomach drop. The galactic combat arena of Vorthak Prime stretched before him like a metal mountain. Its walls rose so high he could not see the top. Strange alien symbols glowed along its surface, pulsing with energy that made his skin tingle. "First time seeing it?" asked Commander Park Sojin, walking up beside him. Her voice was calm, but Tae-ho could hear the worry she was trying to hide. "Yes, ma'am." Tae-ho adjusted the simple combat gear on his shoulders. Next to the massive structure, he felt very small. Next to the other warriors walking toward the arena, he felt even smaller. A group of crystalline beings marched past them. Each one stood 9 feet tall, their bodies made of what looked like living diamond. Their leader glanced down at Tae-ho and made a sound like breaking glass. The others joined in. Tae-ho did not need a translator to know they were laughing. "Ignore them," Park said. "Brix thinks he owns this place. Won the tournament 3 times in a row." More warriors passed by. Massive reptilian creatures with scales, like armor plates. Insect-like beings with 4 arms and razor-sharp claws. Floating energy creatures that hurt to look at directly. Each group took one look at the small human and dismissed him completely. "Commander Park," a smooth voice called. "Out." Ambassador Lee Dong-woo approached them, his diplomatic robes perfectly clean despite the long journey. "I need to speak with you about our representative." Tae-ho knew what was coming. He had heard this conversation many times during the trip. "To Vorthak Prime." "Sir?" Park's voice became formal. "Look around us," Lee said, waving his hand at the alien warriors. "These beings are born for war. Natural weapons, armor-like skin, strength that could crush our vehicles. And we send—" He looked at Tae-ho with disappointment. "A soldier who barely reaches their knees." "Sir, with respect," Park began, "I am not finished." Lee's voice grew sharp. "When the other species see our champion, they will think humanity is weak, that we are not worth their time or respect. I have worked for years to build Earth's reputation in the galaxy. This tournament could destroy all of that." Tae-ho said nothing. He had learned long ago that speaking up in these moments only made things worse. Instead, he watched the aliens continue to gather. Some rode in vehicles that floated above the ground. Others walked on legs like tree trunks. A few flew overhead on wings or jets of energy. The selection was made by Earth's military council, Park said firmly. "Kim Tae-ho earned his place here," Lee snorted. "By what measure? He is not our strongest soldier, not our fastest, not our largest. When the tournament begins, he will be eliminated in the first round. The shame will follow humanity for centuries." "The tournament does not measure only strength," Park replied. "It measures the spirit of a warrior, the will to fight when victory seems impossible. Tae-ho has that spirit. Spirit does not stop claws from ripping through flesh," Lee said coldly. "Spirit does not break diamond skin or lift massive weights. When that boy dies in the arena, his spirit will die with him." Tae-ho finally spoke. "I will not die in the first round." Both older humans turned to look at him. Lee's expression was full of pity. Parks showed something like pride. "You cannot know that," Lee said. "These creatures have been fighting wars since before humans learned to make fire. They have advantages you cannot imagine." "Yes, sir," Tae-ho said, "but they have never fought a human before." Lee shook his head and walked away, muttering about impossible situations and damaged reputations. Park watched him go, then turned to Tae-ho. "He is not wrong about the dangers. These aliens are incredibly powerful. Many of them see combat as a sacred ritual. They have been training their whole lives for this moment. So have I, Taeho said simply. Park smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her since they left Earth. I know. That is why I recommended you for this mission. They walked toward the arena entrance, joining a stream of beings from across the galaxy. Taeho counted at least 20 different species. Some he recognized from his military briefings. Others were completely unknown. The inside of the arena was even more impressive than the outside. Thousands of seats rose in curved sections around a central fighting area. The floor was made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange devices hung from the ceiling, probably cameras or sensors to record the fights. The trials of Malthus, Park said, reading from a translation device, held every 100 years to honor the ancient war god. Each species sends their greatest warrior to compete for the title of champion. What happens to the champion? Taeho asked. According to the old stories, the war god himself appears to give his blessing. No one knows if that is true. The tournament is old, older than most of the civilizations here, but the winner gains great honor for their species. They found the section reserved for Earth's delegation. Ambassador Lee was already there, along with several other human officials. Most of them looked embarrassed when they saw Taeho approaching. Attention, warriors of the galaxy! A voice boomed through the arena. It came from everywhere at once, speaking in perfect translation for each species. Tomorrow the trials begin. Tonight, you will register and learn the rules of combat. Alien warriors began moving toward registration tables set up around the arena floor. Taeho joined the line, aware that many eyes were watching him. Some looked curious, most looked amused. The registration official was a tall, thin being with too many joints in its arms. It looked down at Taeho's paperwork and blinked several times. Human, it said in a voice like wind through metal. Homeworld, Earth, height, 5 feet, 6 inches, weight, 160 pounds. It looked up from the papers. Are you certain you are in the correct line? Perhaps you are here to serve food or clean equipment. Laughter rippled through the nearby aliens. A massive reptilian warrior slapped his tail against the ground in what Taeho assumed was amusement. I am here to compete, Taeho said clearly. The official made a sound like static and entered his information into a glowing device. Very well, you are registered. Try not to die too quickly. The crowd enjoys a good show. As Taeho walked back, to the human section, he heard whispers and comments in dozens of alien languages. His translation device caught fragments. Tiny, weak, first elimination, waste of time. Commander Park was waiting for him with a serious expression. I just received your first match assignment, she said. Tomorrow morning you fight. Thane Korax of the Insectoid Dominion. What do you know about him? Heavily armored, natural weapons, 3 times your size. The betting odds are 500 to 1 against you. Taeho nodded calmly. Could be worse. How? Could be 1,000 to 1. Park laughed despite herself. Get some rest. Tomorrow we show them what humans are made of. As the arena lights dimmed, for the night, Taeho looked out at the massive space where he would fight for his life. Somewhere in the darkness, ancient powers were watching. Tomorrow, he would either prove himself worthy or die trying. He was not afraid. Fear was a luxury. He had given up long ago. The arena floor felt cold under Taeho's feet. Above him, thousands of alien spectators filled the seats, their voices creating a sound like ocean waves. Most were here to watch the small human die quickly. Across the fighting circle, Thane Korax clicked his mandibles together in what might have been laughter. The insectoid warrior stood 8 feet tall on 6 legs. His body was covered in natural armor that looked harder than steel. 4 arms ended in claws sharp enough to cut through metal. His compound eyes reflected the arena lights like jewels. "This is your champion?" Korax's voice buzzed through his translator. "I have stepped on insects larger than this creature." The crowd found this very funny. Alien laughter filled the air in dozens of different sounds, roars, clicks, whistles, and grinding noises that hurt Taeho's ears. In the human section, Commander Park So-jin sat forward in her seat. Captain Yoon Hai-won had arrived during the night to observe the tournament. She looked worried as she watched Tae-ho through her recording device. "This is madness," Captain Yoon whispered. "That thing will tear him apart in seconds." "Watch and learn," Park replied, though her own hands were gripped tight on the seat arms. Oracle Nyx, the ancient keeper of arena traditions, stood at the edge of the fighting circle. She had been running these tournaments for over 2,000 years and had seen every kind of warrior the galaxy could produce. But something about the small human caught her attention. While other fighters showed aggression or fear before battle, this one seemed almost peaceful. "Warriors!" Oracle Nyx called out, her voice carrying easily through the arena. "The trial begins now. Fight with honor. May the strongest spirit claim victory." A horn sounded across the arena. The trial had begun. Korax immediately charged forward, moving surprisingly fast for such a large creature. His claws gleamed as he swung them toward Taeho's chest, expecting to end the fight with the first strike. Taeho was not there. The human had rolled to the side at the last moment, letting Korax's momentum carry him past. The alien's claws sparked against the metal floor where Taeho had been standing. "Stand still, little bug," Korax hissed, spinning around with deadly speed. But Taeho was already moving again. He had noticed something important during his roll: the joints between Korax's armor plates, places where the natural protection was thinner, places where a precise strike might actually do damage. Korax attacked again, this time with all 4 arms at once. The crowd leaned forward, expecting to see the human crushed. Instead, they watched Taeho duck under the high swings and step inside Korax's reach. His fist struck out, hitting the gap between 2 armor plates on the alien's left side. Korax stumbled backward, more surprised than hurt. Green blood trickled from the small wound. "Impossible," someone in the alien crowd said. "The human drew first blood," another voice added. In her observation box, Captain Yoon turned to Commander Park with wide eyes. "How did he do that?" "Taeho does not fight like other soldiers," Park explained. "He studies his enemies, finds their weaknesses, uses their strength against them." Down in the arena, Korax was no longer treating this as a game. The insectoid warrior's compound eyes focused with deadly intensity on the small human. He began moving more carefully, keeping his claws ready to block any attack. But Taeho was not trying to attack. He was learning. For the next several minutes, the human seemed to dance around his opponent. He dodged claws by inches, rolled under sweeping arms, and jumped over leg strikes. Each time, he got a little closer to understanding how Korax moved, how the alien balanced his weight, where he was strong and where he might be vulnerable. The crowd grew quieter as they realized this was not the quick execution they had expected. The small human was not just surviving, he was studying his enemy, like a scientist. "What is he doing?" Oracle Nyx wondered aloud. Tejo struck again, this time at a joint in Corax's rear left leg. The alien hissed in pain and swung wildly, but the human was already gone. Another strike hit a weak point in the right shoulder armor, then another at the base of the neck. None of the hits were powerful enough to seriously injure the massive warrior. But they were adding up. Green blood marked a dozen small wounds across Corax's body. More importantly, the alien was starting to slow down. "He is wearing him out," Captain Yoon realized. "The human is making the alien waste energy while staying fresh himself." "Tejo survived the Battle of Hill 347, Park said quietly. "He held that position alone for 3 days while waiting for rescue. 3 days without sleep, fighting off attacks every few hours. If there is one thing humans do better than any other species, it is endure." Corax was breathing heavily now. His attacks were becoming slower and less accurate. The natural armor that had seemed like such an advantage was now working against him. It was heavy, and carrying all that weight was exhausting. Tejo, meanwhile, looked like he could fight for hours more. His breathing was steady, his movements were still quick and precise, and his eyes never stopped watching, learning, planning. "How?" Corax gasped between attacks. "How are you still standing?" Tejo did not answer. He was too busy noticing that the alien's rear legs were starting to shake from fatigue. The heavy body was becoming too much for tired muscles to support properly. The human changed his strategy. Instead of avoiding all of Corax's attacks, he began to deflect them. When the alien swung high, Tejo guided the arm down toward the ground, making Corax bend forward awkwardly. When claws came from the side, he redirected them into empty air, forcing the alien to spin and lose balance. After an hour of fighting, Corax could barely lift his arms. His compound eyes were dim with exhaustion. The crowd had gone completely silent, watching something they had never seen before. A tiny creature defeating a warrior 3 times its size through pure endurance and intelligence. Tejo made his final move. As Corax stumbled forward from tiredness, the human stepped to the side and struck a precise blow to the nerve cluster at the base of the alien's neck. Corax collapsed to the arena floor, unconscious but alive. The silence stretched for long seconds. Then a single voice called out from the alien section, "The human wins!" Slowly, more voices joined in, not cheering exactly, but acknowledging what they had witnessed. Even the species that had been laughing at Tejo were now looking at him with something like respect. Oracle Nyx stepped forward. In all her centuries of running tournaments, she had never seen anything quite like this fight. The human had not won through superior strength or natural weapons. He had won through patience, intelligence, and the kind of endurance that seemed impossible for such a small creature. "Victory to Kim Tejo of Earth," she announced. As medical teams carried Corax away to recover, Tejo walked back toward the human section. He was breathing hard now and sweat covered his face, but he was not injured. Commander Park met him at the edge of the arena. "How do you feel?" "Tired," Tejo admitted. "But ready for the next fight." Captain Yoon was staring at him like she had never seen him before. "I owe you an apology. I thought you would be eliminated in minutes." "The tournament is just beginning," Tejo said. That was the easy fight. He was not boasting. According to the tournament schedule, his next opponent would be Gorak of the Drakthon Empire, a reptilian berserker who had never lost a single combat in 15 years of warfare. But as Taeho walked back to the preparation area, something had changed in the arena. Alien warriors who had been ignoring him were now studying his movements. Species that had dismissed humanity were asking their advisors for information about human military history. High above the arena floor, in chambers most spectators did not know existed, ancient powers were beginning to take notice. The war god Malthus had slept for centuries, but something was stirring in the depths of his cosmic awareness. Something small, something determined, something that refused to be broken. The tournament was far from over, but already the galaxy was starting to learn that size was not everything. Sometimes the smallest flame burned the brightest. Dr. Choi Min-ho worked quickly on Tai-ho's bruised ribs. The human medical bay was small compared to the alien facilities, but it was clean and quiet. Tae-ho sat still while the doctor ran scanners over his body, checking for internal damage. "You are lucky," Dr. Choi said, reading the results. "No broken bones, some muscle strain, a few cuts that need cleaning. Nothing that will stop you from fighting." "Good," Tae-ho replied. He looked tired but not defeated. "How long until the next match?" 2 hours. Dr. Choi paused in his work. "Are you certain you want to continue? No one would think less of you for withdrawing. You have already proven more than anyone expected." Commander Park entered the medical bay carrying a data pad. Her expression was serious. "What do we know about Gorak?" Tae-ho asked. Park sat down heavily. "He is bad news. 9 feet tall, weighs over 600 pounds, scales like armor plating, claws that can cut through steel. He comes from a warrior culture where fighting to the death is considered an honor. Weaknesses? That is the problem. No one has ever found any. In 15 years of combat, Gorak has never been seriously injured. He just keeps coming forward until his enemies are dead." Dr. Choi looked up from his instruments. "The medical files I accessed show something interesting. Gorak does not fight with strategy like other species. He enters what they call berserker fury, a state where he feels no pain and fights with pure instinct. So he cannot be reasoned with or tricked," Tae-ho said thoughtfully. "No. But there might be another way to look at it. If he feels no pain, he also does not know when he is being damaged. He might fight past the point where a smarter warrior would surrender." Outside the medical bay, the arena was buzzing with activity. Word of the humans' victory over Korax had spread quickly through the alien delegations. Many species were now sending observers to study the small warrior from Earth. Warlord Vex of the Machine Worlds stood in his preparation chamber, surrounded by glowing screens showing footage of Tae-ho's first fight. As a cybernetically enhanced being, Vex approached combat like a computer program, analyzing data, calculating probabilities, planning for every possible scenario. "Interesting," he said to his mechanical assistants. "The human does not fight like we expected. He uses endurance as a weapon. This requires adjustment to our combat algorithms." High Priestess Zara watched the same footage from her sacred chambers. As the chief servant of the war god Malthus, she was sensitive to spiritual energies that others could not feel. Something about the human warrior was creating ripples in the cosmic flow that surrounded the arena. "My lord," she whispered to the darkness, "something stirs in the deep places. This tournament may be more significant than we realized." Back in the human medical bay, Ambassador Lee Dong-woo arrived with several diplomatic officials. His attitude toward Tae-ho had changed since the victory over Korax, but he still looked worried. The galactic media is asking for interviews, Lee said. Several alien governments want to establish formal contact with Earth's military. Your victory has created opportunities we did not expect, and problems we did not expect, Commander Park added. Some species are angry that a primitive race like humanity could defeat their warriors. They see it as an insult to their honor. Tejo stood up from the medical table and began putting on his combat gear. Do they plan to do something about it? Not directly, but they are putting pressure on the tournament officials to make sure your next fights are as difficult as possible. Gorak was supposed to fight in the later rounds. They moved him up specifically to face you. Because they think he will kill me? Yes. Tejo finished adjusting his gear and looked at the humans around him. Dr. Choi seemed nervous. Ambassador, Lee was calculating political advantages. Commander Park was trying to hide her worry behind military discipline. I need to know something, Tejo said quietly. Do you believe I can win? There was a long silence. Finally, Park spoke. I have seen you do impossible things before. When the enemy overran Hill 347, you held that position for 3 days against a force 10 times larger than your unit. When we found you, you were still conscious, still fighting, still refusing to retreat. Every military expert said it could not be done. That was different. I was defending my soldiers. What are you defending now? Tejo thought about this. The idea that strength is not just about size, that intelligence and determination matter more than natural advantages. Then yes, Park said firmly, I believe you can win. The call came for warriors to return to the arena. As Tejo walked through the corridors, he passed groups of alien spectators. Their conversations stopped when they saw him. Some looked curious. Others appeared hostile. A few seemed almost respectful. The arena floor had been repaired after the morning fights. Fresh sand covered the metal surface, ready to absorb whatever blood would be spilled. The crowd was larger now. Word had spread across the galaxy that something unusual was happening at the tournament. Gorak was already waiting in the center of the fighting circle. The reptilian warrior was everything the reports had described and worse. His scales were dark green with hints of black, covering a body that looked like it had been designed for war. Massive arms ended in claws longer than knives. His tail, thick as a tree trunk, swished back and forth with barely controlled violence. When he opened his mouth, rows of sharp teeth reflected the arena lights, but it was Gorak's eyes that were most disturbing. They held no intelligence, no strategy, no fear, only hunger for battle and destruction. So, Gorak rumbled in a voice, like grinding stone. You are the tiny creature that thinks it can fight warriors. I will enjoy tearing you apart slowly. Tejo said nothing. He was studying his opponent, looking for anything that might give him an advantage. Gorak was clearly stronger and faster than Korax had been. The reptilian's natural armor looked thicker and more complete. There would be fewer weak points to target. Oracle Nyx raised her hand for silence. The crowd noise faded to an expectant whisper. Warriors, prepare for combat. Fight with honor. And may your spirits guide your actions. The horn sounded. Gorak did not charge forward like Korax had done. Instead, he began walking toward Tejo with slow, deliberate steps. His claws scraped against the arena floor with each movement. Saliva dripped from his open mouth. I will not make the mistake of rushing, Gorak said. I will corner you like prey. Then I will take you apart piece by piece. Tejo backed away, keeping the distance between them constant. He needed time to understand how this opponent moved, but Gorak was not giving him the luxury of a long observation period. The reptilian suddenly lunged forward with surprising speed. His massive claws swept through the air where Tae-ho had been, standing. The human rolled to the side, but not quite fast enough. One claw caught his shoulder, tearing through the combat suit and drawing blood. The crowd cheered at the sight of human blood on alien claws. Tae-ho felt the wound, but did not let it distract him. He had been hurt worse many times before. What concerned him more was the speed of Gorak's attack. The reptilian was much faster than his size suggested. Gorak pressed his advantage, attacking again and again with mechanical precision. Each strike came closer to connecting fully. Tae-ho dodged and rolled, but the arena floor was not infinite. Soon he would run out of space to retreat. Dr. Choi watched from the human section with growing horror. He cannot keep this up. That creature is too fast and too strong. Wait, Commander Park said. Look at the pattern. She was right. Gorak's attacks were powerful and quick, but they followed a rhythm. The reptilian was not thinking about his strikes. He was fighting on. Pure instinct, and instinct, no matter how deadly, could be predicted. Tae-ho began to time his movements to match Gorak's rhythm. Instead of just avoiding the attacks, he started to guide them. When the reptilian swung high, the human ducked and moved slightly to the left, causing the claws to strike empty air and leave Gorak off balance for a fraction of a second. It was not much of an opening, but it was enough for Tae-ho to land a quick strike at the base of Gorak's neck. His fist hit scales and bounced off without doing any visible damage. Gorak roared in anger and spun around, his tail whipping toward Tae-ho like a massive club. The human barely got his arms up in time to block. The impact sent him flying across the arena floor. He rolled with the momentum and came back to his feet, but his left arm was numb from the impact. Fighting with one arm against this monster would be almost impossible. Is that all? Gorak taunted. The famous human warrior cannot even scratch my scales? But something was happening that Gorak could not see. High above the arena, in dimensions, beyond normal perception, the ancient war god Malthus was beginning to stir. The cosmic entity had felt something familiar, the taste of a warrior who refused to surrender even when facing certain death. In her sacred chambers, High Priestess Zara felt the divine presence awakening and fell to her knees in prayer. Back in the arena, Tae-ho was discovering something important about his opponent. Gorak felt no pain, which made him incredibly dangerous. But it also meant he did not realize when he was being damaged. The human changed his strategy. Instead of trying to hurt Gorak, he began working to tire him out. He made the reptilian chase him around the arena, forcing the heavy warrior to carry his massive weight through constant movement. Gorak's final charge shook the arena floor. 600 pounds of muscle and scale thundered toward Tae-ho with deadly intent. The reptilian's claws were spread wide, ready to tear the small human apart once and for all. Tae-ho did not run. Instead, he stepped forward to meet the charge. At the last possible moment, he dropped to one knee and drove his fist upward into the soft spot beneath Gorak's jaw. The impact sent shockwaves through both fighters. Gorak's head snapped back from the blow. His momentum carried him forward, but his legs tangled beneath him. The massive warrior crashed to the arena floor with a sound like falling rocks. For a moment, neither fighter moved. Then Tae-ho stood up slowly, blood dripping from his knuckles. Gorak lay still, unconscious, but breathing. The arena was completely silent. "Victory to Kim Tae-ho of Earth," Oracle Nyx announced, her voice filled with wonder. The silence broke into chaos. Alien spectators roared in disbelief. Some cheered, others argued loudly about what they had witnessed. A few simply stared at the small human who had done the impossible. In the human section, Dr. Choi was already running toward the arena floor with his medical kit. Commander Park sat back in her chair, hardly believing what she had seen. Even Ambassador Lee looked impressed, despite himself. But the real reaction was happening in places most spectators could not see. High Priestess Zara felt cosmic energies swirling around the arena like a storm. The war god Malthus was definitely awakening now, drawn by something he had not encountered in thousands of years. Master Hongyi Tai, watching the fight through holographic projection from Earth, nodded with quiet satisfaction. The elderly martial arts expert had trained many warriors in his long life, but he had never seen anyone display the pure fighting spirit that Tae-ho showed. "General Rowe," he said to the military officer beside him, "you are witnessing something historic." This young man embodies what our ancestors called bulgul, the absolute refusal to be conquered by anyone or anything. General Ro Soo-min leaned forward, studying the broadcast. "I have read his military records. 3 tours of duty, decorated for valor multiple times, but this is beyond anything in his file." "Records can only measure what a man does," Master Hong replied. "They cannot measure what he is willing to become when everything depends on his choices." Back in the arena, Tae-ho accepted medical treatment from Dr. Choi while tournament officials prepared for the next phase. He had advanced to the semi-final round, which meant only 3 warriors remained besides himself. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Choi asked as he cleaned the cuts on Tae-ho's arms. "Tired," Tae-ho admitted, but not finished. "Your next opponent will be Brix, the crystalline champion. He has won this tournament 3 times. No one has ever even injured him seriously." Tae-ho nodded. He had been watching Brix's fights during his recovery periods. The crystalline warrior was unlike anything he had faced before. Brix's body was made of living diamond, nearly impossible to damage with conventional attacks. He could reshape parts of himself into weapons: spears, hammers, cutting edges sharper than any blade. "What do you know about his fighting style?" Tae-ho asked. Commander Park joined them, carrying fresh data from Earth's intelligence network. "Our scientists have been analyzing his previous matches. Brix relies on his invulnerability. He lets opponents exhaust themselves trying to hurt him, then crushes them when they are too tired to defend properly." "Has anyone ever found a weakness?" "No. His crystalline structure appears to be perfect. No cracks, no soft spots, no vulnerable areas. He is essentially a living weapon that cannot be broken." Dr. Choi finished bandaging Tae-ho's wounds and stepped back. "You need rest before the semifinal, at least 6 hours of sleep." "I will rest when the tournament is over," Tae-ho said. "That is not advisable. Your body needs time to heal." Tae-ho looked at the doctor with eyes that had seen too much war. "My body will do what I ask it to do. It always has." As the arena prepared for the other semi-final match, Tae-ho found a quiet corner to sit and think. The tournament was taking him into territory no human had ever entered. Each fight was harder than the last, and his opponents were becoming more dangerous. But something else was happening. With each victory, he felt a strange energy building around him. It was not physical strength or enhanced speed. It was something deeper. A connection to forces he did not understand. Master Hong's holographic image appeared beside him, transmitted from Earth. Honored teacher, Taeho said, bowing respectfully. You have done well, my student. Better than I dared hope when I recommended you for this mission. I am not certain I can defeat Brix. He seems truly invincible. Master Hong smiled. Do you remember what I taught you about the nature of strength? True strength comes not from the body, but from the spirit that refuses to yield. Correct. And what have you learned about invincibility? Taeho thought carefully. That nothing is truly invincible. Everything has limits. Everything can be overcome by sufficient determination. Very good. Now I will tell you something that is not in any military manual or combat textbook. There are forces in the universe older than any species currently alive. Powers that respond, not to strength of body or sharpness of weapon, but to purity of spirit and absolute determination. You mean the war god? I mean the fundamental force that drives all true warriors. The refusal to surrender even when surrender seems logical. When you fought Gorak, you touched something ancient and powerful. I could see it in your eyes. The old master's image flickered as the transmission weakened across interstellar space. Remember, my student, you are not fighting just for victory. You are fighting to prove that the human spirit cannot be broken by any force in the universe. That is a truth worth any sacrifice. The image faded, leaving Taeho alone with his thoughts. The arena began filling with spectators for the semi-final matches. Word had spread across the galaxy that the small human had defeated both Korax and Gorak. Attendance was now at record levels, with beings traveling from distant star systems just to witness what might happen next. Warlord Vex won his semi-final match quickly and efficiently, defeating a massive energy creature through precise calculation and technological superiority. The machine-enhanced warrior immediately began studying footage of Taeho's fights, processing battle data through his cybernetic implants. Then it was time for Taeho to face Brix. The crystalline champion entered the arena to thunderous applause from his supporters. He stood 9 feet tall, his diamond body reflecting the arena lights like a living prism. When he moved, his crystalline structure made soft, chiming sounds, like wind through crystal formations. So you are the human everyone is discussing, Brix said, his voice like breaking glass. I confess, I am curious to see what makes you special. My previous opponents have been quite disappointing. Taeho studied his enemy carefully. Brix's body was indeed beautiful. Perfect crystal formations that seemed to glow with inner light. But beauty could be deceptive. I have watched your fights, Brix continued. You defeat your enemies through endurance and strategy. Unfortunately for you, I cannot be tired or tricked. I am patient as stone and harder than any substance you have encountered. Oracle Nyx called for the match to begin. Brix did not attack immediately. Instead, he began reshaping his arms into massive crystal hammers. The transformation was mesmerizing. His diamond flesh flowed like liquid before hardening into new forms. Let me show you true invincibility, Brix said. He brought both hammer fists down toward Taeho with crushing force. The human rolled aside, and the crystal weapons shattered the arena floor where he had been standing. Taeho struck back immediately, driving his fist toward what would have been Brix's solar plexus. His knuckles hit perfect diamond and bounced off without leaving even a scratch. The crystalline champion laughed like breaking bells. Did you feel that? Hitting me is like striking a mountain. You might as well try to punch the stars. But Taeho was not discouraged. He had expected this. As the fight continued, he began to notice something important. Brix was indeed invulnerable to physical damage, but invulnerability came with a price. The crystalline warrior had grown overconfident over the centuries. He did not really defend himself because he did not believe he needed to. For an hour, Taeho danced around his opponent, striking constantly but doing no visible damage. Brix seemed amused by the human's efforts, occasionally reshaping his body into new weapon forms just to show off his capabilities. But something was happening that neither fighter understood at first. High in her sacred chambers, High Priestess, Zara felt the cosmic energies around the arena reaching critical levels. The war god Malthus was not just awakening, he was manifesting his presence in the physical realm for the first time in millennia. The arena itself began to respond to forces beyond normal understanding. Ancient symbols carved into the walls started to glow with their own light. The air itself seemed to thicken with power, and in the center of it all, a small human warrior continued to fight against impossible odds, his spirit burning brighter with each failed attack. Something was building toward a moment that would change everything. The moment came when Taeho struck Brix for the 100th time. His fist hit the crystalline warrior's chest with the same determination he had shown for the past 2 hours. But this time something was different. The arena's ancient energies had been building around the human's unbreakable spirit, and they reached a critical point. A hairline crack appeared in Brix's perfect diamond surface. The crystalline champion stared down at his chest in shock. In 3 centuries of existence, no force in the galaxy had ever damaged his structure. The crack was tiny, barely visible, but it was real. "Impossible," Brix whispered. The crowd fell silent as they realized what they were seeing. The unbreakable had been broken. Taeho stepped back, breathing heavily. He was exhausted beyond measure, covered in sweat and blood from 2 hours of fighting, but his eyes still burned with determination. "How?" Brix demanded. "What power do you possess?" Before Taeho could answer, the arena began to shake. Ancient symbols carved into the walls flared with brilliant light. The air itself seemed to vibrate with cosmic energy. A presence filled the vast space, older than the stars, more powerful than any force the gathered species had ever encountered. Spectators fell to their knees as they felt the weight of divine attention upon them. The war god Malthus was manifesting. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking in perfect translation for every being present. Enough. Light poured from the arena's center, taking the shape of a figure that hurt to look at directly. Malthus appeared as pure energy given form, ancient beyond measure, having witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "I have watched this tournament for millennia," the war god continued. "I have seen strength in many forms, but today I witnessed something I have not encountered in 10,000 years. The divine presence turned its attention to Taeho, who stood alone in the center of the arena. Every other being present, alien warriors, spectators, officials, had fallen to their knees in the presence of godhood. Only the small human remained. "Standing. You do not kneel," Malthus observed. "No, sir," Taeho replied quietly. "I kneel for no one until my mission is complete." Cosmic laughter filled the arena, not mocking, but filled with genuine appreciation. "Spoken like a true warrior. Tell me, small one, what gives you the strength to stand against forces that could unmake you with a thought?" Taeho considered the question carefully. Around him, the greatest warriors in the galaxy waited for his answer. Behind him, He could feel the attention of every human watching from Earth. "I fight for an idea," he said finally. "The idea that strength is not about size or natural advantages. It is about the refusal to surrender when surrender would be easier. My people call it Bulgul, the spirit that cannot be conquered. And what makes this spirit so special? Because it grows stronger when challenged. The harder the fight, the brighter it burns. Defeat it, and it comes back stronger. Break it, and it rebuilds itself from the pieces. That is what makes humanity different from other species." Malthus was quiet for a long moment, considering these words. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of cosmic truth. "I have observed the rise of countless species across the galaxy. Most achieve greatness through superior technology, natural advantages, or overwhelming force. But your species grows stronger precisely because you lack these gifts." The war god's attention turned to the assembled crowd. "Behold the nature of true strength, not the easy dominance of the naturally gifted, but the hard-won victory of those who refuse to accept limitations." Brix, still kneeling despite his crystalline nature, spoke up. "My lord, how could this tiny creature damage what cannot be damaged?" "Because he carried with him the one force that can break any barrier, absolute determination backed by pure spirit. Your body is perfect, crystalline one. But your will has grown soft from easy victories. His body is fragile, but his will has been forged in the fires of impossible struggles." Master Hong, watching from Earth through the holographic link, felt tears running down his face. Prime Minister Shin Jae-yoon sat beside him in stunned silence as they witnessed their species being recognized by cosmic forces beyond imagination. Back in the arena, Malthus began the formal ceremony that concluded each tournament. But this time, it would be different from any that had come before. For 10,000 years, I have named champions based on their victories in combat. Today, I name a champion for a different reason. The divine presence extended something that might have been a hand toward Taeho. Energy flowed between them, not changing the human, but recognizing what was already there. Kim Taeho of Earth, I name you not merely champion of this tournament, but champion of indomitable will. This title has not been granted in over 10 millennia, for it requires something rarer than strength or skill. "What is that?" Taeho asked. "The absolute refusal to be conquered by anything, fear, pain, death, or impossible odds. You have shown that spirit is the ultimate weapon, and determination, the ultimate armor." Light surrounded Taeho as the cosmic recognition took effect. But when it faded, he looked exactly the same, still tired, still bloody, still small compared to the alien warriors around him. "I do not feel different," he said, "because you have not changed. You have simply been acknowledged for what you already were." The galaxy will remember this moment. When future species rise to challenge the established order, they will know that size and natural advantage are not everything. The war, God's presence began to fade as he prepared to return to his cosmic rest. But before he departed completely, he had one final message. To all who witness this, never again underestimate those who seem small or weak. For sometimes the greatest strength lies hidden in the most humble forms, and sometimes the smallest flame burns bright enough to light the darkness for entire civilizations. The divine presence vanished, leaving the arena in absolute silence. Slowly, the alien spectators began to rise from their knees. Many looked at Tae-ho with new understanding. The mocking laughter and dismissive comments were gone, replaced by something approaching reverence. Oracle Nyx approached the center of the arena, her ancient features showing wonder. In all my centuries of service, I have never witnessed the war god grant such recognition. You have changed the nature of this tournament forever. Brix walked over to Tae-ho, the crack in his crystalline chest still visible. I owe you an apology, human. I fought you thinking you were weak. Now I understand that you carry a strength I cannot comprehend. You fought with honor, Tae-ho replied. That crack in your chest will heal, but perhaps it will remind you that nothing is truly invincible. As the arena began to empty, Tae-ho walked slowly back toward the human section. Commander Park met him at the entrance, her face glowing with pride. How do you feel? She asked. Tired, Tae-ho said with a small smile. Very, very tired. Dr. Choi appeared with a medical stretcher, but Tae-ho waved it away. I can walk. The entire galaxy will want to study what happened here today, Ambassador Lee said, his earlier embarrassment completely forgotten. Earth's status in galactic politics has changed forever. Good, Tae-ho replied, but that was not why I came here. Then why did you come? Tae-ho looked back at the empty arena, remembering the battles he had fought and the recognition he had received from a cosmic god. But his answer was simple: to show that humans do not quit. No matter what stands against us, no matter how impossible the odds seem, we keep fighting until the job is done. Master Hong's holographic image flickered to life one final time. Well spoken, my student. You have honored not just our military, but the spirit of every human who has ever faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. As they walked toward the transport ships that would take them home, Tae-ho felt the weight of what had happened settling upon him. He had not just won a tournament. He had changed how an entire galaxy viewed humanity. But for all the cosmic recognition and divine blessing, what mattered most to him was the quiet pride in Commander Park's eyes and the knowledge that he had completed his mission. Somewhere behind them, alien warriors were already studying recordings of his fights, trying to understand how a being so small could carry such enormous strength of spirit. They would learn in time that it was not size that made humans dangerous. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat, even when defeat seemed inevitable. The small human had taught the galaxy a lesson that would echo across the stars for generations to come. Never underestimate the power of a spirit that simply will not break. The tournament was over, but the legend was just beginning.